Hello, welcome to the daily loot video. Right, let's just get into it. Auctions, no, wrong one. Scouter players, sort. Right, let's go through it. Oh, that's interesting. That's the first time that's ever happened to us, so we didn't get any keepers in there. Right. Let's go through it. Yep, don't use left back, don't use left back. Yeah, not good enough. Not good enough. Probably not good enough. I think just too high wages, too old. Yeah, or maybe again, too high wages, too old. Probably not quite good enough. Just tackling close, and that could be okay if other stuff was better, but then he's not good in the air, he's actually slow, the marking's not great, the position's not, etc. So just not good enough. Don't use right back. Don't use right back. Don't use left wing back. A bit, yeah, just a combination of, I think, between the price of the wage and how good they are, just not there at all. Not good enough. Not quite good enough. It's these three that we're primarily caring about for the DMC, the passing, the tackling, the visions, and not there. Not there, but if they were there, those three attributes were higher, which obviously they're not, but if they were all, say, 70, or certainly if they're all 75, we'd probably just get this guy. Actually, because then he basically ticks all our boxes, wage in the right sort of brackets, and all the other stuff is just good enough, but yeah, those three key ones just aren't, like, as in all the other stuff. So basically the 66 speed acceptable, air ability fine. Yeah, basically he just would have been fine if that was the case. So just for by way of a bit of information. So this guy does have better passing, tackling, and vision, but his other stuff isn't as good. Like aerial ability 20 notches lower, speed nearly 20 points lower, and everything else on average is lower. Well, maybe everything else isn't. Maybe everything else is. Let's say everything else, the keys. So the marking, the positioning is fine. But anyway, the vision isn't where we want it anyway, so I don't think it's worth deliberating. Plus the wages are a bit higher. He's closer to being there than this guy, though. But I think not quite. We're getting super picky at this point because we've kind of got a DMC that we're okay with anyway, so it only really makes sense to get any that's an actual upgrade, really. Or just way younger and lower wages. And I think the one we've got now isn't... Let's have a look. So his wages are 450. Yeah. So you can see the one we've got now doesn't have that high vision, but has quite high passing. But he's also like 66 speed and whatever. So it's in the realms of possibility that we can get an upgrade on this guy for a player that's younger. It can happen. Alright, we were checking this guy. Yeah, this guy would kind of just be like, we would totally just get him probably if he was way younger. That obviously happens quite a bit. This guy not quite there. This guy not good enough. This guy not there, and expensive and whatnot. So, right, we don't use wingbacks. This is the MCs are typically right. Here's an interesting one. I think not, but interesting though, because he's so right. What makes him interesting? So he's fast and has the aerial ability, and whilst they aren't the main things that we care about, they matter quite a bit. And then he's also got endurance and natural fitness to go with this level of speed, and the role that we need would be box to box. Probably. The attacking one, however, is interesting. I think the passing and vision isn't quite there, but the long shots is. The finishing in the box definitely isn't. And then you got to factor in that he's 22 and has quite a bit of room for growth still. So, for example, the passing would go up 4 points, and then that'd be on the next boost. So that's going to be 72. That's getting pretty good. The vision is going up too, so that still looks like it's got at least a bit of room for growth in either option. If you're going to get it, you're obviously getting this option here. So you'd also get 2 movement, 5 determination, 3 speed. So then he's going to be like really fast, and 4 natural fitness. So that's going to even help more with the fast speed and stuff. And technically speaking, he can play either role, just not as good as we want. But he does have the long shots, and then his passing's going to be getting potentially really, like, well, at least to 72 anyway. So he could play the AMC role, and the box to box one he could. A lot of the mental stuff is, a lot of this stuff is quite low, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. Like, obviously it sounds like, well, wouldn't you rather it be high? Yeah, sort of. But the thing is that would then mean his wages are way higher if all these were way much more rounded. So having the attributes super focused like this keeps those wages low. It's around where we want them for our players, actually. We're saying as a guide we want around 250, which is really hard, actually. Quite. The reality is that's probably closer to 300 in practice. And if it's below 300, then you're sort of saying you're saving. It's like an extra. Like, I wouldn't say this guy should be sort of like get a 25k penalty applied, because I think 250k is like really rare. If we go to our actual squad and we're sorting by the actual wages, how many do we actually have less than 250 that we're using? One, just one. Oh no, this guy. So sorry, 2. This guy doesn't count because he's starting squad. But I think saying 300 as the baseline is kind of more. Sorry, it's just coughing. Ugh. We have got a couple at 250 and quite a few on 300. So I think 300 maybe. But anyway, whatever. We're basically saying 250 to 300. That type of range is what we're looking for. So this guy's on the... where is he? This guy's on the low end of that range. Now, having said that, he's still 1.09 million. So I think if he was like 100k or something, we would just be probably buying him. But at 1.09 million, well, is it even an option? Yeah. But after we pay the 1.09 and the signing fee, 1, and then the wages, So if we buy him, our projection's going down to like 300 and something thousand. So we have to factor that in. We forgot the first part of our process today is the transfer bids. Right, so we can cash in, so to speak. I mean, cash out might be the better phrase here, because I think after you add on the signing, okay, so we would have basically like made it probably a, okay, so he's been at the club for 7 days. Yeah, it's about a quarter, 125, about 600,000 in wages, plus 60,000 in wages, sorry, plus about another 66 signing fee. So be 670, 830, 838 or something, I think. Is that right? No, 720. Yeah. 7. It's towards 800,000. Basically, we would be making a bit of a profit, but it would be yeah, we spend nearly 800,000, I think, like 790 or something. After you take what we paid plus the signing fee plus the wages we paid him, so we've been making like, basically it's not about the money we're making, it's about whether we I'm no longer keen on this guy for some reason, but I don't know, I think we are still. I don't think we would want to. Anyway, it is an option if we need the cash today at least. Let's just keep looking before we make any kind of decision on this guy, because there might just be something better now to spend the money on. We are into the next weekly league period, so we've got this scouting pool and 6 more for the cash we got now, and we'll get another cash injection at 5 million. So you get 4 cash injections, to be clear, of 5 million each after each of your first lots of 12 matches. Now, if you don't play all of the training league because you don't make the matches or because you miss part of the month or whatever, then you still get those cash injections just when you're in the bottom division after the matches, after the league. So it's basically 12, 24, 36, 48 league matches, which would, if you played all of the matches in the training league, that's 48. But if you don't, you still get them afterwards. So 4 lots of 5 million, 20 in total. We've had 2. We got 1 for this slot once we play them, and 1 for the next slot. But what I'm saying is we could play the matches to get it, but we still would have another 6 scouting pools after this one. We just got to bear that in mind. Because basically, if you think about it, we've basically got we got this one and 6 more. That's 7 scouting pools. We're going to get another 5 million. We've currently got 1.7, but that's dipping by, what is it dipping by each day? We can go, if it's 7 days, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7. So it's about 1.9 to 1.7. So we're going to lose about 200k as is. So that over the next 7 days, so that'll take us to 1.5 just from our projection. Then we'll get 5 though, so that'd be 6.5. And we basically got to get through this scouting pool. So we got less than 1 million in total a day. And if we bought that guy, as we said, it would be about 1.4 million. And then obviously the higher and higher we get the wages. And from a planning perspective, ideally, you know, our wages would be a bit lower, but also it is the case that, ideally this will be flat. But I'm not too concerned because it looks like it's quite a ways down. But that's just we don't have much money. Like realistically, between now and a season's time, what is that? It's for about 700,000. So it's not great. But once we get, we will get, as we go up the divisions. Basically, each time we go up, our gate receipts double. Sorry, not double. They will go up by 5 million a season. So at the moment it's 5, next season will be 10, you know, etc. Typically speaking, we don't know if teams are getting promoted or not because based on where they finish. But actually, in the training league, we know once they finish that tutorial, they will be getting promoted. So maybe we can probably increase the projection. Anyway, worry about that. That's a technical thing. For now, it's not necessarily great anyway because you don't really want the team to be projecting into the ground. Ideally, like now we can hold people off from projecting too low this season, and then next season you can sort of recover even if you dig yourself a deep hole because you'll get some extra revenue and so on. So it's not all bad. Right, anyway, back to the scouter players. Let's just go through the rest of the list, see if let's not totally get hooked up on this guy because he's not perfect at the end of the day. For the box-to-box, the tackling would be higher. And then for the guy that's going to sit on the top of the box, I think he does get chances inside the box. Not sorry, the MC with attacking midfielder, he does get chances inside the box. This is the issue. So his finishing and composure is like really low. So that's bad. And the reality is, with this high speed, he would have even more opportunities to burst basically into the box. So this high speed makes this finishing in lower composure actually really bad. The box to box, the work rate's not that great, but this high speed would compensate for that to some degree. Even if he's not running as hard as he can, even just running, running on half cylinders or whatever, like he's still going to be moving at a decent speed. But the tackling is a bit low. Basically, like he's kind of pretty good from the perspective of a backup, to be honest, because as we have our key starting midfielder for each role, and then this guy can fill in if either are injured. He ideally does have the endurance and natural fitness to be a starter, so you're not fully utilizing that. But the thing is, in the course of a natural season, there would be a fair few injuries and whatever, so he would start quite a bit. And then also you just need to consider that he is only 22, he will get better, and when he's better, he could be good enough to start. We don't know, the tackling isn't here. But yeah, there's quite a bit of growth just in this one boost. But yeah, interestingly, the finishing won't be, which is something we're saying matters. Anyway, let's just keep going. Make the decision after. I kind of feel like right now I'm leaning a little bit towards just... I think like I originally said, if he was way cheaper, he might be a candidate, to be honest, to just slap down the bid. So if we could get him for half this price, we take him. And if someone outbids us, so be it. So it could be, and when we can show how that works, so it could be a candidate for that. But yeah, even if we're on the fence too much, she's like an ideal candidate for that because it basically just settles it. I don't even know if there's a chance we'll get outbid. We might. A lot of users place a huge focus on speed, unfortunately, which is fair enough because it does matter for quite a few positions in quite a few tactics, quite a lot, but it doesn't typically matter that much for MCs. Most of the MC roles, it's not that big a deal. Like I guess by way of example, we would happily lose a few points here from the speed if that meant that the tackling could be like 65, which even more than a few points basically, or I don't know. You start changing the nature of the player basically. But yeah. Right. Let's just keep going. So this guy. Yeah. Anyway, all I was really trying to say is I think there is a chance we do get outbid because of this speed. So we do have to bear in mind that, So what I'm trying to say, I guess, if this speed was like 10 points lower, if it was 67, but the tackling was like 70, let's say, then that would be a better player for us. And there's probably less chance we get outbid for him as well. That's, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. Right. Yeah, just too old. Not good enough. Not good enough. Too old. Too high wage. Not good enough. Not good enough. So I'm looking at him for our box to box. I don't think he can do the other role because his long shots ain't high enough. With the box to box midfielder, he does pop up in the box for some chances quite a bit. So the finishing's good. The passing and vision combination is low. Let's have a look at his. So get more tackling or not. The extra long shots, which should take him up to a decent level. He won't get more vision though, and that's already really low. He'll get more work rate, which would matter for the box to box. And I think for the box to box, we'd care more about the tackling than the marking. So we'd be looking at +2 tackling. So take it at 72, which is pretty good. He'd be good tackling. The long shots would matters for that, so that'd be up a bit more. The crossing doesn't, and the work rate does. So he's close as well. This is a player that if we bid for this guy, there's a good chance we don't get outbid, although it would be less, so it'd be easier for people to jump in, but there may just not be any interest in that guy. But again, it's not worth messing about, basically. Because only 243. So to try to save 100,000 or whatever if we want the guy. So it's not a good example for that. Another thing is he's got quite a bit of scope for growth. But the concerns are, let's just go through his weaknesses for us. So the vision isn't as high as what we ideally would have it, and we know that it's not going up here. There's a chance that it's just capped out at 41, which is bad. It eliminates him from pretty much being like, it may not be capped out, but we talk about more. I think we might do a video on specifically on this. When I say capped out, it's more like it's not a cap. It's more like it may not grow that much, but it may. It may as well. So it's we need to talk specifically more about that at some point. Where is the guy? Here he is. Okay. So what else about this guy? So the wages are higher, nearly double this other guy, which is significant because over the course of 3 seasons, that's a big deal. But he's also a bit older, but also has a higher ceiling. 3-point higher ceiling, 4 points higher currently. So quite a bit of scope to grow still. But the issue, like I said, the issues are that the vision is low for the box to box, what we want, but whatever, you're not going to get it all. So, and then the other issue I think is just that I think this combination of speed and work rate, because he has to get up and back and up and back, so the slower he is and the lower the work rate, the less chance there is of him getting up in time to help with attacks and back in time to help with defending. And the more chance there is basically just running around like a headless chicken the whole game, never helping anything. So those attributes matter quite a bit. And then obviously the higher the speed is as well, the faster he is running, let's say, and the work rate helps him get up and back when he's not sort of near the play, basically. The higher they are as well, we do then need to consider more that these need to be higher for him to last the match. Natural fitness recovers some condition at halftime, so high endurance, low natural fitness can mean quite good as a substitute to bring on early in the second half, or I guess late in the first half even. But it can mean not that great as a starter from like, they do have a high endurance, which is good and all, but then, you know, at halftime they may not get a lot back, so they may not last the match. But this guy in particular, this is enough probably, generally speaking, to play the whole match out as a starter with this level of speed and work rate. But the issue is that it's a bit low. And we do need to consider that, because if he's not making the plays, like if he's not getting up and he's not getting back, he's not doing anything then, basically. The one we have now does typically make it, so let's look what he's got. So he's got 68, basically, in 55. He's fast enough, so we know as a baseline that this is good enough. He does typically get up and back, so 68 and what was it, 55, 60? 55, so 68 and 55 we know is enough. But this guy, well, he's not really. That's 52 is not 68, slower. So let's mull on that a bit. To be honest, though, I think all things considered, particularly half the wages, basically, that this guy's better. Not sure if he's better or not, but I think the wages matters here. That's what it comes down to for us. We have to be very selective over the players that we're happy to pay these high wages, and neither of these are that good. So this is definitely more of a player we're thinking of, like, both of these are in the realms of like not a way above average player for us, just an average player. So they need to be getting paid the average wages, so to speak, that we want to have. But yeah, interesting. Like, they're both candidates, right? Let's just keep going in case there's more. So, are too old. Not there. Not good enough. Not good enough. Excuse me. Not good enough. I mean, he's 16 or whatever. Kind of interesting, but yeah, we're not going to spend $500,000. We could expect to get a trialist better than this, and we basically can't. We can get a trialist better than this plus his $500,000, 600,000 actually, plus the signing fee is like 650 or something, and then you're basically saying, look, we get 6 of those. It's like nearly 4 million or whatever. We can't afford to be spending 4 million on players, on a bunch of players that are worse than the trialist graduates we would get. I mean, yeah, I think it's fair to say we could expect better. The thing is, we may not necessarily be able to expect an MR better. But yeah, we're just not in a position to spend that money. Anyway, I just say because he's interesting, because if we wanted to play the tactic, the same tactic for our youth, the senior, that this guy actually is probably good at, like, we would probably alright with this guy, like he does tick enough boxes, so to speak, for MR. So he's like fast enough. The passing matters, we know. The dribbling matters, we know. The crossing matters. Touches the ball a bit and needs to do stuff. The control matters. Has high enough determination that you're not put off by it. Then this super low stuff, a lot of this just doesn't matter at all. Position doesn't really matter because he's very attacking nature. Marking doesn't matter because he's very attacking nature. Long shots doesn't matter because he's never in position to take them. Finishing, this does matter. He does have a few shots, but it's not that big a deal, but it matters. The strength, low strength matters. And then the composure doesn't have a lot of close range. Like he does, it matters. So this finishing composure combination matters. But it's maybe not even a second, more like a tertiary, I don't know, function almost. So, of all the things, all this other stuff is more important, basically. So I'd say out of all of the stuff that he's got, the main weakness that is his strength, really. I'd just like him to be able to get through tackles a bit more. To be honest, if he was way cheaper, because I'm saying we can't really be blowing 650k on these type of players, but if he was way cheaper, like, I don't know, this guy, let's say 83k, then we probably just buy him, actually. Because it's not, like I'm saying, we could technically get a player that's similar or maybe even better from our academy trial, but not necessarily this month or next month that plays this position. That's the thing. So, anyway, I think we just can't get him because he's just too expensive, I think. But it could be another candidate, actually, maybe, that we try to get him for half the money. Maybe. Right. Moving on. Right, for the right attacking winger, not quite fast enough, and we've already got one. So it would be the left side of midfielder. I mean, the thing is not quite good enough. Maybe if he was a right midfielder, but he's not. We'd have to add the position, which means he needs to be a whole different grade of player. So, and for the left midfielder, he gets up and back and needs to make tackles. And so we think his tackling is just too low for that one. So yeah. But close. If his tackling was higher, then maybe we would consider him for that, to be honest. Ideally, the crossing would be higher. But the thing is, like, I think the tackling is a deal breaker because the benefit of this guy as well is his wages are super low. But maybe, I don't know. The thing is, if he was a left midfielder and his tackling was higher, then maybe. But yeah, they're not. So, right. AMC. Right, we need... He's just not good enough for lots of reasons. We need finishing composure, he doesn't have that. And long shots, not good enough either. Passing vision, higher than this as well, not good enough. So the base of the core is not good enough, and then you're saying let's focus on all these physicals and stuff, how they match up, but it's just not good enough. Yeah, I think just not good enough. Right, that's the... And AMRs we don't use, so we can just chug through these, unless we happen to see one that we would be willing to train another position. Right, and then strikers, and these are going to be really hard to find any kind of improvement on what we've got. This guy's, I mean, alright, actually. Let's look at what training option is. He's only on the second boost, so we've still got a whole nother one. Interestingly, he's got pretty high tackling, but I think his marking is low enough that... not really. I mean, we could add DC as a position just as a makeshift sort of thing, like a situational thing during matches to bring him back, but it is pretty low, and it's not going up. So that's not a thing, really. I think you just have to view him through the lens of a striker that can occasionally make tackles, which if he does, then it's likely to be in a very dangerous spot, which is you know, has some utility in and of itself. Long shots of finishing, we don't know if that's going on. But yeah, he's got some nice stuff here. I think the speed, strength, dribbling, finishing, composure is pretty nice. The aerial ability is low. Passing is low, but the vision is high. Like, realistically, that's not that useful, pretty much, for a strike. I mean... It's okay. To be honest, it's probably the low passing high vision is really only that useful for the very attacking players, where they, you know, spot out something they may not be able to pull off, but if they happen to, then it's like a high reward situation because you get a goal off the back of it, so it's worth that high risk, high reward. Whereas everywhere else on the pitch typically isn't. So yeah, okay, but you'd rather ultimately be the other way around, so that they just don't give the ball up in the build-up, probably, on the whole. Kind of depends on how much goal-scoring threat you've got, but we've got enough, and we've got a lot of players up forwards, that's the thing, so we typically would rather just not surrender possession. Could be different, by the way, if you're just playing a striker and two AML, AMR, and they're completely isolated. You care less about retaining possession and more about just finding that killer ball, or you just care about that one moment that leads to a shot. You don't really care about retaining possession. So if he's completely isolated like that, then probably the lower passing and higher vision is better than the other way around. And the long shots would ideally be higher, but whatever, he's actually alright. Actually alright, to be honest. Right. What does he cost? Yeah, and again, a little bit on the expensive side. I'm not entirely sure. I think a lot of the he ticks a lot of boxes for what is generally looked for in the game as well. So if we bid that half amount, there's a very good chance we end up getting outbid for him. Right, this guy, a bit older and just worse. So let's not consider him. And this guy, just too old, not good enough. Solid, well-rounded, but that's a problem because he has the high wages. So we will pass because of those wages, but he's he's all right. I mean, we can check the training options. The composure would go up potentially by 3 points. It'd be very high then. It's kind of pretty good, pretty well rounded, to be honest. It's just we don't need strikers. It's one of the things that we got. We come out alright on. I guess to some degree. Where's this guy? This guy here, to some degree, like, that's the type of striker that this guy looks like he's turning into. Very similar sort of type of player. So we're happy with that archetype. We just don't really want to be paying these wages, basically. So, right. But again, it's a player that if we put the half bid in, there's a good chance we get it because a lot of people would be put off by this low speed for the striker. So, but I think for us, we'd be Anyway, we don't need him. That's the thing. So right. And this guy, just too old. Right. So in the end, we're left with some central midfield decisions to make. With this guy and this guy. So I harbour concerns with this guy, basically, that we know that 65 speed or whatever is enough. But he's not that. And the thing is, if it isn't enough and he's behind the play, okay, then he basically is useless for us. And then there's another consideration here that our opposition in the training league is weaker than it will be next season and the season after. So as it gets stronger, it'll be harder for us to regain. Like, effectively, we'll give up possession quicker and stuff like that. The pace of the average match will increase, and the speed will become, and the average opponent will be faster as well. Which means that he would need to be a little bit faster, not a little bit slower. Like ideally, maybe high 60s. If I had to guess. So I have concerns of this guy's long-term viability. for that role. For the other role, he's probably okay, but the long shots isn't high enough. I think it was going up though. Yeah, but it was still then. We're looking for closer to like high 70s. Really, there's no reason to. So it still weighs off that. And tempting. I think part of the issue as well that in particular we just got. Yeah. I mean, having said all that, like, I'd rather be using that guy than this guy, because the other guy's this guy is just, older, right? And higher not high wages, sorry, low wages, yeah. Anyway, I think that's enough. I think he's out of consideration. Because I think we would rather this guy if we were going to get one, and we're certainly not going to get both. Right, what I'm going to do for now, because we can withdraw it, we're just going to lay down this bid at the half price, because I think we're happy to get him for half the money. We probably get outbid and don't get him. So I think we wouldn't get him anyway, but I think the question is, unfortunately, what it comes down to for us, like with that, the $500,000 matters. That's what it comes down to, unfortunately. So if you have more money or in a high division, this $500,000 may not matter at all, and you just buy the guy. But for us, it matters, unfortunately. So, we may not miss out, to be honest, because I think for MC in particular, like whilst he does have that speed and that wheel, a lot of people probably dismiss him if he's slow. But the thing is, a lot of people would still going to have their requirements, like we do, that they need certain things for their central midfielder. And to be honest, he's unlikely to tick anybody's boxes from that regard. So they're going to be like us, like he's deficient on the tackling for what we need, but we're basically just saying that, this other stuff makes up for that. So I think we'll put that down. Like I said, we might end up buying him, but paying the full price. But I'm so on the fence anyway, because like I said, at the end of the day, the tackling ideally would be high. Just trying to fathom this fully. And ideally, he does get chances in the box. This is the thing. So, of course, you can't have everything super high, but you could have it's not that unreasonable to expect you could basically have a player like this that can't really do anything much except the long shots and the passing, but still either have, to be honest, that higher long shots help. Yeah, it's a weird one because he's sort of like, he's like 75% there for the box to box and 75% there for the other role, which ties all the way back around, which he kind of makes a pretty good backup because he can do either to an acceptable standard, but not to what the standard that we really, really want. If we get him, he probably immediately comes in instead of this guy though. So he immediately plays because this guy is the starting squad. So, and immediately he does have better passing. He does have better long shots, I think. He does. He's way better in the air. So he is an immediate upgrade over what we're using. And we have been looking for a player to upgrade this guy since day one and not found him. Oh, okay. Maybe we pay the full price. And to be honest, we do have the fastest strikers and stuff. So he's in a position where if he wins a header, it could lead to a good chance. That air ability really matters in particular. Like it's matters more than for the average player. It isn't just about set pieces. It's about directly creating chances off of those headers for the players in front of him. Right, let's just check our training options. Right, so this guy, I think we are using him in the youth team. Yeah. He doesn't really have much of a long-term future, but let's just look what he can get. Yeah, I think we go on this one. That +5 speed is just... the other stuff is pretty tight. You are probably leaning this way a little bit though, but then yeah, it's just a little bit this way, and then that more than tips the other side. But this is the DMC we're using. We're struggling to get a replacement, so he could be around for a while. What are we saying? An extra tackling versus an extra tackling and an extra speed versus extra vision and an extra crossing. The crossing doesn't matter at all, so it's going to be this side. We care more about the tackling and not losing quite so much in the speed. And then this guy is starting for our youth team. He doesn't have much of a future for the senior team, but we just get the one that means the most. He is playing, so the determination matters at the moment at least. And then probably... Right, so we're saying 4 extra determination and 1 extra endurance versus 3 crossing. He's way too slow to ever drift wide to cross, pretty much. I think, yeah. And his crossing's really low anyway, so that kind of doesn't matter. So I think we're going with the extra endurance and the 4 determination instead of the 3 crossing. Right, let's go to Academy Trialists. Endurance came out. Oh, that might have already been there before. The finishing for the striker. Oh, that one came out. So we're still waiting on that. The speed came out. Okay, so these ones we found out yesterday, so there's not been any movement on them. I think the movement for this guy was there as well. The long shots, that's a new one, I think, and we don't care for the DMC. And the rushing out, all really high as well. This guy's looking good. That vision is a bit low. I think this is a guy that, like, we're okay. We'll be alright for him to graduate, but we only need 1 DMC. And this guy's looking... to be honest, this guy's not that great either. These are just guys that we're happy in the end to end up with, but we should be aspiring... If we're looking for world-class players, the opportunity, let's say, the potential that these players may become great one day, I don't think either of these can be that. They're alright, but they just have too much. This guy, for example, is like really slow. And then he's got a bunch of other stuff that's really low, in particular some stuff that matters. So the positioning and the vision, for example. And to be honest, even this other stuff matters somewhat. Well, not the long shot so much, you won't ever take them hardly, but the dribbling matters a bit, the control matters, the composure matters somewhat, the agility matters somewhat, the endurance matters somewhat. So then this guy, the marking matters. From the real low stuff, that's the one. But then also, the tackling is not that great at all for a DMC. So yeah. Right, so for us, just not good enough. We're either going to want tackling and or long shots from an MC for us, for our roles, because of our roles, so just not there. This guy, just not as... Our current keeper's basically going to be better than him, even if everything else just about comes out at 1, which it won't. This guy, just low tack, just not there. This guy, is probably just... It's a really high finishing composure. But super slow dribbling. Decent, good speed. That... And then the really low determination. I think he's just not as good as the striker we've got. What's the letters? Flair, that matters. B. C, D. Yeah, so you kind of are finding out the most important stuff. But the thing is, he's already got some serious red flags. This super low dribbling is like, well, okay, so he can run onto a chance that somebody else creates, but if he gets the ball, he's going to be dribbling slow enough that people will catch up fast. So then, basically, he's more likely to have a dip from long range if he's out of options and somebody's catching up. So the long shots will then matter more because of the low dribbling, and that's low. The strength will matter more because they'll catch up, and that's low. So I think the dribbling for the striker, low dribbling means higher long shots more important. Well, the strength is important regardless. So let's ignore that from the equation for a second. I think there is a rule though. Lower dribbling equals higher long shots. Long shots becomes more important basically. And then he's also got this super low determination, which, to be fair, so does our current striker, but I think this guy's just way better. So, moving on, 2 shot stopping. 9 tackling 3. It just doesn't tick the boxes. Lowish, not lowish, just low. The passing vision is enough. Doesn't have a good aerial ability. Don't know the tackling for a bit yet. And then the next ones, the A and the B, really don't matter at all. So I think we'll just pass on this guy. Probably would rather just persevere with our current ones. I feel like this is a very similar type of thing though. I don't know, it's a hard one. If this tackling comes out at, well, let's say 60, that's the best case scenario. So all of a sudden he's looking pretty good for what we need. Still deficient in ways though. Like, still doesn't have the marking. Still, ideally would have more aerial ability. Still would have more determination because we'd be starting him. So think on that one a bit. This guy, shot stopping low. This guy, shot stopping is coming next. 60 speed, not that big a deal for keepers, but 60 handling. Agility and the parrying combination is high enough. Super low shot positioning, but so the worse the shot positioning is, the more important the speed becomes to recover from the poor positioning. So that's good that it's the high speed. We don't know the determination. The shot stopping is a big deal for this guy, whatever that is. It's going to make or break him, and that's coming up next. Don't actually know this guy's determination. To be honest, the thing is, this guy's still got a lot to come. This guy could be better. It's possible. This guy could end up better. I would bet on the other guy, but the thing is, I feel like we're just going to move one of these DMCs out. Not sure which one. This one. I feel like they just both get moved out anyway in the end. Alright, let's get this guy in. And then don't use AML. Right, so the parrying really bad. We don't know what the agility will be. Shot stopping some ways off. I feel like this guy's just got less potential to be great than the yeah, I feel like he's just not. If we didn't have any other keepers held at the moment, we might be able to speculate on this guy and wait for the shot stopping. But I feel like even if this comes out really high, he probably doesn't end up as good as this guy, basically. Yeah, so I think we'll pass, but only basically on the basis that only on the basis that we already got 2 keepers here, and I feel like these ones are these have a bit of an upper hand. Right, just it's a lot of unknown here and a lot of waiting. to find out stuff. I think we're just going to pass on that guy. This guy, it's just a lot of waiting for the speed. So I think we don't want to wait that long. We don't use AML, but he's an interesting one. Some really low stuff, but some really high stuff. But yeah, we don't use AML. And this guy, tackling too low. Right. So how far into the month are we? We're at the 17th. So there's still ages to go. I feel like we just want to swap this guy out for something that could be great. Something more chance taking. So we got time yet. So I'm just going to look through them again for something that just got a lot of unknown, but potentially could be awesome. I guess this guy has better scope, probably. Not going to be awesome. There's quite a bit of waiting involved to find out the tackling. But I feel like if his tackling comes out at, like, well, let's say 60, because if 60 isn't good enough to get him in consideration, then then it doesn't really matter. But yeah, I don't know. This is a weird one. So this is weird combinations of like super high passing, low vision. He has got super high tackling, which is great, but his positioning is bad. His marking is 60, which is awesome, but his positioning is bad. And then his speed is slow, which means if he's in a bad position, the speed becomes more important. So this is a bad combination. And then he's got fantastic aerial ability, so that's a factor. But then he's got this super low endurance, which if the natural fitness comes out low as well, then he probably can't even finish matches. That is coming next, or at least we'd know that next. We also don't know what the determination is. This guy needs a lot of development. A lot of these super low figures need to be brought up, and if the determination comes out low, that eliminates him. If the natural fitness comes out low, that eliminates him. So he could easily still just not be good at all. Whereas this guy, yeah, I don't know, to be honest. The problem with this guy is the stuff that's coming up is stuff you just don't care about. So if you have him, you're looking up a spot for ages, and I just don't think either of these guys will be around for multiple days. I think we'll just find something better. And holding this guy is pointless because we just won't be around long enough to find out. This guy, just a bit too slow for our rolls. Yeah, so I don't know. I think the only thing that really makes sense is either this striker, sorry, I just had to cough, or the keeper that we said we didn't really want to clog 3 up, but or maybe we do. Alright, let's just stick with this guy. I think on the basis that he gets eliminated if the natural fitness is low. So at least we find out a piece of information very soon that either eliminates him or not. Whereas I think for the other one that this was the other guy that this guy was the other one that we had in. We're not really finding anything out soon that is going to just straight up eliminate him if it's low. He's just hanging around just in case we don't find anything better. And that's exactly the type of guys you don't generally want. You just want guys that you can make decisive decisions on to get rid of soon, and that could be great if you get lucky. At this juncture in the month, as we get closer to the end of the month, as we get closer and closer and closer, we're more happy to then start settling on solid players and less sort of trying to speculate on great players. But we're not quite we're still at the midpoint of the month at the moment. We're not on the tail part. So all right, so that's all of it. I think we're just left with this decision and scouted players. So we got the bid down. We'll just leave that for now for this video. If we end up changing our mind, we'll cover that and we'll explain why. Either way, honestly, it just feels very in the balance here. This decision. So at the end of the day, the $500,000 matters, like we keep saying. Does it really matter that much? This is another question. And then, do we really want to settle for this player? Because it only really makes sense if we're just, honestly, I think if we're happy to use this guy. As it keeps saying he can do either role as a backup or whatever, but I don't know if that's enough to justify it, to be honest. I think he has to be a starter. One benefit, I suppose, is that at least where we are now, we can play him in either role, and see how big a deal these low finishing, composure and tackling actually are for the box-to-box midfielder. And we can also play him I honestly think he's going to just more suited for that attacking midfielder role, just because of the aerial ability, what will be elite long shots, which we have to consider. I mean, the 74, and then what was going up? That was already high. It was the speed. So that ended up 80, and he'll get a bunch like more natural fitness, which is going to help him last the match. Honestly, there's a lot going for him here. 4 more passing, so that'll end up quite high. I mean, honestly, this guy could just be. Wouldn't take too many more training boosts like this, and he's just going to be awesome. So yeah, all right. Well, we will. If we change our mind on that bid, we'll post it in the next video at the beginning of the next one, whatever it may be, whether it's matches or anything else. So if you want to know the outcome of this, just watch the start of the next video. So cheers and thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.